how long do you think it takes somebody to get up to speed on the dental learning curve? To proficiency?
I think it's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. And I think that it's one of our biggest struggles. It's, I can hire 5 people tomorrow, which is great. It'll look like I have a full staff, but those 5 people they're not even useful. That's a terrible way to put it, but they're not even really useful to me.
You're not getting a return on your investment.
Right. For 60, 90, 120 days at minimum, minimum.
Hey guys, welcome back. Expansion episode number 2.
Number 2. We are 3 months late on number 2.
Yeah,
so
every 3 months is a good.
I mean, a little bit of a layoff, a little bit of a long summer vacation, had a pandemic wrapped up in that as well. So, and I mean, I ordered a microphone. It never actually showed up. And that's really been the reason that I've been holding off on trying to get together and do this, because sound quality is so important. But
I mean, we recorded the first one like right before everything went down, didn't we? No, it was right after.
It was a month in. I think I want to say it was probably either the end of April or early May sometime.
Yeah. As soon as like quarantine kind of got lifted here, we hit the first one. It's like, well, we got time. Like we haven't been doing anything, so let's hit it. But probably the goal is more than once every 3 months.
Yeah,
put out an episode.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Once every 3 months. No, I think we're going to do it monthly. Actually, what you guys don't know about the behind the scenes is that we both brought like 4 changes of clothing, and we're doing 4 of these today in rapid succession. So we should be good for the next few months.
That's right. So anyway, hey, appreciate you coming over to the studio today.
Sure.
I got, a little something. Have you ever you've had High West?
I have had High West, and I love it. It's fantastic. It's well done.
Yeah.
It is an excellent choice.
Yeah.
Excellent choice.
High West Boo Rye. So this is one of their top ends. It's a blend of bourbon and rye, where they get the name, which I thought was cool. But I, a couple years ago, I was in Park City.
Yeah. And
looking for, I was like kind of just seeing what distilleries were around or whatever, and found High West. Walked in, the place was packed. Mm-hmm. And did a little flight of bourbons because they had so many. I was like, well, where do I start?
Yeah.
And gosh, just fell in love with it. Like so well done.
Awesome.
So I'll pour you a little bit here.
I have had just a little taste of this in the past, and I'm a fan.
Yeah. So I got 1 ice cube in there just to give it cool it down a little bit. If you're ever in Park City, it's a great spot. I mean, it's like the mountains. I think technically it's a ski-in distillery, so you can just ski, grab some food.
That's a city that I've heard a lot about that I have never ever been to. So
yeah, we actually just cheers. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Yeah,
we actually just started a client in Park City. And I was like, I'll go out on that that project, and
you're strategically picking. Oh, we have clients in Arizona and Southern California and Park City, Utah.
That's right.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah, 100%. You're in Florida. There's a good chance you're going to see me. So if you're in Newark, New Jersey, there's no way. I'm just kidding.
I've done the same thing. I generally pick travel based on the airports that I'm going into and how easy I can get in and out. So, which has a lot to do with weather as well.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously, gosh, last couple months, lots of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So many changes. I mean, personally, professionally, just all that's going on.
A lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, COVID definitely. It's interesting now. Like I think we all had our predictions, but now like things are actually playing out on how it is impacting the market. What are you seeing right now in the dental space?
Well, I think it's really interesting. We have a couple of different competing views at this point, namely the WHO and the ADA. Now, thankfully, the World Health Organization came out when we're recording this about a week ago, or I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago, and said that they were recommending that people not go to their dentist, which, take it as it may. One of the great things about the World Health Organization is that they've been wrong most of the time. So I think that people have, to some extent, stopped listening.
Yeah.
The other thing that's funny is, I don't know about the practices that you're in on a regular basis, but there's so much protective equipment on at this point that a patient is much safer in a dental environment with all of the PPE and all of the other things that these practices are doing to help with the health and safety of the business. They're much safer in that environment than they are at a local grocery store with someone walking around wearing a mask that they made out of a sheet that filters nothing. So, it's an interesting dynamic and conversation. But I think that at the same time, the overarching theme is that the dental industry seems to be recovering very, very well. I've spoken with a lot of dentists. The practices that I'm working in, are just absolutely blasted with new patients coming in and people trying to catch up on their hygiene appointments. So it feels like things are starting to recover a little bit, and we're getting accustomed to, whether it's ongoing or short term, we're getting accustomed to this new business model.
Yeah. Because I was going to ask you, like, do you really believe dental practices are one of the safest places you can be right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are obviously some concerns, namely that you're working inside a mouth. But I think that there's so many precautions being taken, and if you look at and maybe if you segment medical in general, of some of the medical environments, dentistry may be a little bit less safe just because of the working in the mouth component. But if you look at all the things that we do on a regular basis, going to the grocery store, this or that or the other, I pick a dental office safety over any of those places any day of the week.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. And dental office, I mean, they're dealing with their team. It's not even just about patient protection. They've got team members that have concerns, absolutely. And they're trying to protect them too. Oh. So it's this whole conversation with like Big Ten football right now. Like they cancel.
Can we not grieve this already? I keep holding out hope.
I know. Did you see Justin Fields' petition?
Yeah. It was awesome and well written, and the Big Ten shot it down.
Yeah, I know. But that's like the case, right? On one side, I totally see it. I'm like, college athletes are not paid. Yeah. To put an unpaid student athlete at risk feels very irresponsible and full of liability, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm like, this is actually a conversation that I think could push that forward. Mm-hmm. Of if you're not going to pay your athletes, you can't have sports right now. Like you just can't have it both ways. So I think that's one side. The other side is I'm like, where a lot of these guys are coming from, their hometowns, their environments, like the college football environment is probably one of the safest places they can be. Mm-hmm. You know, so.
Yeah, that's what Nick Saban said the other day. Like he said, listen, our kids are safer on the football field with all the precautions we're taking than they are going home to their families and doing whatever they're going to do on the weekends and evenings. Yeah. And I mean, in a structured environment, he's absolutely correct. Yeah. So it's one way or the other. Now, interesting conversation there is, should we be paying college athletes? And that's an entire podcast on its own. But, you know,
we get into that, episode 3.
Yeah, we'll get into that some other time, completely outside of the dental environment.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, thanks for all the comments and reaching out and checking in and liking of the Expansion podcast, especially through Facebook. Definitely appreciate all the support there. So any ideas you have, any questions, drop them in. I mean, we see that, we're on that. So
it's been awesome. We've had great response. We've had over the last probably 60 days, I've had probably 20 or 30 people reach out asking when our next episode is going to come out, which is flattering, and we're thankful. And it also helped motivate us to make sure that we got it on the schedule.
That's right.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
But it has been a lot of fun, and it's great to be back here. So
yeah. I know you put in here. So this is like live. This is very. I mean, it's not edited at this point, so we're just kind of going with it. But an expansion event likely early 2021. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, I haven't talked to you about that yet.
No, I know. So let's do it on the show. Because obviously we had actually planned for this year. I was so excited. Yeah. We actually had a date.
Yep.
Had a planning meeting. Like, felt so good about 2020 event, but obviously that's not going to happen.
Yeah. We kind of regrouped as COVID hit, and it became relatively apparent that unless the schedule relented, travel opened up, things like that, there wasn't going to be any way to plan anything, because we just had no idea if it would actually take place.
Yeah.
So I've spoken with, several of the sponsors that sponsored the first one, and a couple of speakers, things like that. And there's a definitive interest in doing another event. We'll structure it relatively the same with some very different content. We're probably going to bring a speaker in, but when I've spoken with the sponsors, and obviously you're a huge part of this, putting it together and speaking at it, we will probably shoot for an early February date if we can, if that works out, February, March, somewhere in there, really depending on what happens. Or, if COVID goes away in early November, then we can really hit that March date. And if it doesn't, then we'll see.
Yeah. If it magically disappears after the election.
Yeah. Just magically.
So, all right. Hey, I want to,
we're going to have a lot of topics start bleeding in here.
I know. Yeah.
There's pent up frustration.
Yeah. That's as far down that road as we're going to go. So I know what I wanted to do with the second episode was I was like, it would be a really good chance to just help our audience get to know you and what you do, get to know me, what I do a little bit more. We really skipped over that in the first episode. We were just like, hey, here's what we're doing. And because this off season, I like that. Like, it's not quarantine or COVID, it's off season.
It also makes me feel better about our decision not to have a podcast for the last 3 months. It's like, oh, it's the off season. Why would we be recording a podcast?
That's right. It sounds so much better.
You naturally take off the off season. Yeah, I agree. That's a good way to put it. It's the off season.
Yeah. It's interesting because during this time, I mean, we've watched people make moves, whether it's in the dental profession or personally. I mean, just personal relationships have been strained. I mean, so much is going on here, but you've made some big moves in this off season. Yeah. Tell me what you're up to now.
You know what? I'm actually over the last 90 days, I've taken a role with a large group practice out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and it's really kind of a dream setup for me, and I'll get into more of the details later, but it's a great practice with a great owner that has a very, very unique business model, and they'd wanted for a long time to build kind of a management structure, scale, and then convert into a DSO and expand. Yeah. And he and I have been going back and forth for really a few months, probably predating even COVID, but we've been speaking off and on for a few months leading up to that. And then over COVID, it was a perfect opportunity. So we're building out an official DSO structure on January 1st. The business will split, we'll convert to that. And we're already in the process of looking at neighboring markets outside of Cincinnati and adding two additional locations in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So,
because I know, I mean, it's not a surprising conversation for me. I don't know it's new. I think even the last year and a half, you've kind of been like, ultimately this is what I want to be doing. Was there something about COVID though, when you say it was a perfect time, like what was that convergence of great time to do it?
Well, I think that if I had to speak for the owner a little bit, I would say that he was motivated to do it and wanted to do it, and then COVID hit, and there's a little bit of a hesitance just because you're kind of recouping to some extent, trying to figure out how things are going to recover. And our practice has weathered the storm extraordinarily well. We do a lot of specialty work in-house. We handled a lot of emergencies. We kept patients coming through in a very, very healthy and safety manner. It's healthy. Went really well.
Health and safety. That's great.
Yeah.
And we won't edit this either.
Yeah, please edit that.
Edit this later. I'm like, no.
Thanks. That's what I always say. I'm like, can we do another take? No, I think that there was a little bit of reticence on everyone's part, not knowing how this was going to turn out and what a move like that would make. And there's always safety where you're already at. So it was, as we talked about it, I think that all the stars started to align, and it's something that I've wanted to do for a really, really long time. I think that, and I know I'm jumping ahead in your questions a little bit, but.
Oh, I don't care.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, for the last 10 years, I've, in varying capacities, partnered with dental entrepreneurs, and really kind of in the best way that I possibly could help them build their businesses, optimize their businesses, scale their businesses, and then expand. And whether that looked like, expanding a group practice or converting to a DSO or, any number of different things, it's really been where my wheelhouse is at. And, I've had an opportunity to work in the M&A market, which was a skill set that I really badly wanted for an amazing company and enjoyed that a lot. But throughout the last 10 years, I've always wanted to build something. I've always wanted to have something that I was around at the beginning of at day one when that conversion was made, and could really put my personality and my stamp on it and be with a group of people that were similarly minded.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, I know that's always been a thing that's been obvious with you, is you didn't want to just like talk about it and kind of coach through it, but like you wanted to do it, like be an operator, be in leadership.
Yeah. It's a terrifying thought process at first, because it's really easy to step back and say, well, this is what you should do, and this is how you should do it, and this is what it looks like, and if you do this, it'll work. And for the most part, I think I've been blessed with a lot of very, very good doctors I've worked with who are dear friends now, and we've had a lot of success as teams. But it's completely different when someone comes to you and says, hey, this is my life's work, and now I want you to go build and replicate it, and it's on you. And my first reaction is, well, I don't know how to do that. So But ultimately it's it's an amazing process, and it's a lot of blocking and tackling, and I have a great group of people I work with, so I'm really, really excited.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your role currently?
I am the acting CEO of the DSO.
Okay.
So as of now, I am an army of one in the legal DSO entity.
Okay.
January 1st, the actual split will occur, and it'll section out legally between clinical and business functions.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'll have a team of about, I think, probably 40 or 45 people.
Okay. So, how many locations right now? Like, give us a
three.
Overview.
So it's two very, very large practices. We're building another one that will be a very large practice, and we'll probably, the way our business is built, we're very anesthesia driven. So we have a tendency to we cater specifically to special needs, the medically compromised or fearful patients.
Okay.
So I'm a huge, another draw of the job is I've always been really, really intrigued by the anesthesia driven side of the market. I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, and I think that it's kind of one of those largely untapped arenas within dentistry that a lot of places talk about but don't really do very well. So because of the size of our practices and the way we operate, we'll probably never have more than 3 or 4 locations in a market, but they're very large, and we do a lot of work out of them. So, and we're already looking at 2 neighboring markets.
So the expansion, like as you guys expand and add locations, they'll be still focused on that, like that anesthesia. Like you're not looking to just pick up a GP practice and like.
No, we are. That is very much our wheelhouse.
Story.
We are building our managed services and all of the support structure and all of the education that we provide to our doctors and team members around that anesthesia-driven model. So it'll be very finely tuned and refined.
I think that's awesome. The sedation side of dentistry, I mean, anesthesia, I actually love that you're using that word more, because I think that's more accurate. But in the last 20 years, maybe 20, there's been this whole kind of sedation push. And my experience on the marketing side is these guys have done their course and then go, we want to market sedation. And there's been a couple big groups out there that went to radio and direct mail and, that whole like fearful, or you feel fearful of the dentist and whatever, and get them in. I've never really seen it be awesome in a practice. Like, I think it's awesome that you have sedation options, but I've never seen anybody from the marketing side, they try to market it, but then so many practitioners in it are like, the sedation people can actually be a little weird. Like, because they're high anxiety. There's a reason they're not fitting with any other dental practice. And then they come to you and they're actually like, oh, I don't know that this is actually like what I got myself into.
Are these the patients that we actually want?
So I've seen it just be like never really hit its stride in just general dentistry. I think as an added piece of treatment, that's awesome. But the guys that have really tried to market it, it just hasn't gone very well.
I think it depends on how you build out the business. And I think that for better or for worse, as a traditional general practitioner, you're trying to hit a bunch of buckets. So you're trying to open as many doors as you can to bring patients in, which is very viable. Our belief is that if you look at the percentage of patients that don't come to the dentist on a regular basis, we believe that. So let's just make it easy and say it's 50% of the market don't go to the dentist regularly. There's a reasonably large percentage of those people that don't go to the dentist, not because they don't have benefits, but because they're afraid of the dentist. They just hate the dentist. I mean, every statistic out there talks about the dental visit being the least favorite of all the dental, of all the medical procedures that patients have. So if we're able to and really, really finely tune and specialize in just those specific things, we feel like we have a much larger, there's a great book called Blue Ocean Strategy, and I'm a huge fan of it. And it's a marketing book, but the basic premise, and I talk about it all the time, but the basic premise is, you have these red oceans in the market, and that's essentially where like businesses compete. And when you have like businesses compete, what are the differentiators? Well, in a lot of cases, it comes down to price. Everybody offers good service. Everybody provides good dentistry. Everybody does this. So well, it's either the closest to the house, it's the closest to the kid's school, it's the lowest price, it's the most free stuff you give away, whatever. And if you're able to find a blue ocean and operate within that blue ocean, you don't have either as many competitors or any competitors.
Yeah.
So you are setting the market. And I think that that's where some of that opportunity is. And I think that if you're able to build the entire practice around that, it makes a big difference. And we do it. I mean, I've been in sedation practices before. I've seen much the same thing that you see, and we do it better than anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, that's what I think is brilliant. Like I was saying all that to say, I think that the solution is not, it's just a change in strategy. I think if you're committed to that storyline and going that direction, I think that's probably, that's awesome.
We are fully committed to it.
Yeah. So you've been working out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Like, holy crap. Tell me about that.
Well, I turned 43, almost 2 weeks ago, or a little over 2 weeks ago, and getting older, and my daughter is dating boys, and I thought it was time that I be the biggest guy in the gym. And
how old is your daughter?
She's 16.
All right.
So,
and she goes with you to work out.
She does. We work out together all the time.
Yeah.
And
so you're watching the other guys.
I am. And the
check her out.
Yeah. And it's really it's a funny conversation because the other guys will go to the front desk and say, "Hey, who's that girl?" And the front desk will look right at him and say, "Hey, that guy over there, that's your dad. Go talk to him." So it's worked out well so far.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, because I've known you for the last couple of years. It's not like you haven't been in shape.
Yeah.
I mean, you've always kind of done it, gone out and run and lifted and all that. But what switched? Was it COVID? Was it through that time or?
No, it's this is going way back, but I went through. Okay, so let me start that over again. We're going to edit that part out because I wasn't sure where you were going with it.
Yeah.
I have to
working out?
Yeah.
Question mark. Yeah. Like, oh, the practice is going great. I'm like, no, you've been working out.
I thought you were, when you put that in there, I thought you were talking about, is the job working out?
Both. We can talk about that too. I just think it's more fun to go down this for a minute.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Let me clear my throat.
Yeah, clear it with the bourbon.
Yeah.
Right. You're chasing your coffee with bourbon. That's amazing.
That is so good.
Yeah.
It is really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Where was I?
So I said, what tipped that?
It's been a really interesting journey over the last couple of years, and I've had a couple of interesting job changes, and I had an opportunity similar to the one that I'm in right now, where I was helping to run a DSO. Yeah. And the idea essentially was that we were going to try to optimize it, build it up, and then expand. And at the end of the day, the owner of the group was an amazing person, and at the end of the day, just decided that he would rather sell, and that was absolutely fine. I knew that going in. I knew that was going to be a potential option that he might take, especially once we got things running really well. But it was a bit of a blow for me, and then and it kind of just it set me back a little bit because I thought that was the role and that was going to be it, and I was really excited about it.
Yeah.
Then I had a couple of things personally that happened that were a little bit dark. So I kind of came out of that and reset and got into the mergers and acquisitions market with an amazing company. And really, I fell in love with that job. It was a lot of fun. And about 6 months in, I looked back at a couple of pictures that were taken of me throughout that kind of dark period in my life. And I just wasn't happy with where I was, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
What was your weight then?
It was actually around 205.
Okay. And how tall are you?
5'11".
5'11". Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I hit 247 at one point. I'm 6'2", but it reminded me a little bit of that. I think I was a little bit more chunky, but yeah.
Yeah. So, I just kind of looked back at it and thought, I want to get healthy, number one, because I just want to be healthy and I want to feel better. And it just didn't feel great. Plus I was traveling all the time. So I needed something to regulate, because when you're traveling, you have 2-3 meetings during the day, and the rest of the time you're sitting in a restaurant or something like that.
Beer and chicken wings.
Right. Exactly. It's terrible. So it wasn't getting better at that point.
Yeah.
But no, I wanted to be healthy, and I decided that I was going to kind of dedicate myself to it. And my hope was that, every successive birthday I'd be in better shape than the previous. And I was just turned 43 and I'm in the best shape of my life. So it was really the goal.
Yeah, I think I saw a post. You're like, this is what 43 looks like, and without your shirt. I was like, whoa. I was like,
I am not a narcissist, by the way, just so we're clear.
You can judge that for yourself. But no, you know what's interesting? I had this moment with like COVID, and I think this probably comes back to it is if you go back to this like concept of control, Seneca, like Stoicism, kind of came out long ago and said there's things you can control and there's things you can't control. Like it's a dichotomy. William Irvine. Yeah. Dichotomy.
I love that word. Yeah.
So hold on.
Stoicism, dichotomy, and like pull the ball out.
Hold on, I'm not done. There's another word coming.
Okay, sweet.
I'm gonna drop another one.
Okay.
Well, William Irvine comes out in the 80s and writes this book called The Good Life, which I think is cool because like before Kanye West was rapping about the good life, like William. Yeah. So, but he says control is actually a trichotomy. There's what you can control, or what you have complete control over. There's what you have partial control over, and then there's what you have zero control over.
Yeah.
And he kind of makes a statement of like, if the further out from that inner circle you live, the more energy dissipates, the more stress goes up. And I found that in the middle of COVID and was like, this is why I'm dealing with stress right now. And I think I've been pretty good with that. Like things I can't control, like you can't control a pandemic. You can't control the markets. You can't control like governors shutting your profession down, like those things, right? I think we kind of all know that. But that area of partial control, like others' behaviors, others' expectations. And it just helped reset me to like, what can I control? My habits, my emotions, my decisions, like my mindset. And it was just like, And I've seen so many people do that. And usually one of the first places it results is I'm going to take my fitness seriously. I'm going to like put myself first. I'm like give to, some of those things. So I started doing push-ups every day. Like I'm doing 200 push-ups a day.
It's great.
Well, clearly I'm on the wrong
no, you're not.
Workout plan. Cause I'm sitting here next to you. I'm like, dang, man, my arms look small now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't really know where to go with that, but thank you.
Like, what are we talking about after this? No, but I love that. Definitely. I think I saw you held a unquarantined party at your house.
I did. And we can actually talk about it now. Because I think was the last podcast before we'd actually had it.
It was the week of, like it was that weekend, right?
Yeah. And we were actually afraid that it might get shut down. Yeah. So it went out on Facebook and I had a couple of friends say, hey, you should probably take this down. So I ended up taking it down a couple of days beforehand.
Yeah.
But we had a non-quarantine party before everything opened up of 20, 25 people, something like that.
Yeah.
And nobody was sick and nobody got sick and nobody wore masks and it was great.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. It was a good time. Yeah. I remember that night. I was like, what the heck are you doing? Like, I was like,
sorry.
You've like put on muscle. And you're like, oh, I've actually lost some and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
You were kind of dismissive of it. I'm like, no, you're doing
well,
something.
I mean, and vice versa. I mean, I think we all really dial into, kind of like what you just said, we dial into what's critically important and where we're at in life. And I mean, I could say the same thing of you watching your Facebook and Instagram updates or your social media updates throughout COVID. It was obvious that you were really dialing into where your family was at, spending time with them, reconnecting with them after, a grueling travel schedule. And, that's all very critical. Not that I don't absolutely adore and love my family. I was around them all the time and the gym was just complete therapy for me. I needed that. So, when to your point, that was something I could control. So I worked out. I have some gym equipment in the basement. I worked out every day. I ran every other day. I hate running,
I know.
But I ran 5 miles every other day throughout the entirety of shutdown until the gym opened. And then the gym opened and I was there for 2 hours a day, 7 days a week for the first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was just a complete addict and I feel a lot better and I enjoyed it.
I always have this mental picture of you running and you're just like cussing the entire time.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close. And it's usually, I usually start, actually, I was going to say I usually start pretty strong and that's not true. I hated every step of it, but it's usually about mile 2 when I realize I have to go 2 miles back that I start to really have an internal struggle about whether I just want to sit down on the road and wait for somebody to come pick me up. I hate it so much.
Oh man.
My body is not built for running.
Yeah.
So
looking back over these past 3, 4, 5 months now, I keep saying 3 or 4 months, but really we're probably 5 or 6 months into this. What are you most proud of yourself during this time?
What did I put on there? Oh yeah. It's like, how did I answer this? probably just the perseverance throughout, and not even just the 5 months. I go back to probably the last couple of years. There were some really dark points in that for me personally, and took some professional hits, and was able to really kind of reinvent myself a little bit. And I've had a lot of fun. I've been able to maintain a really good work-life balance, and I've been able to sort through which opportunities that came were the right opportunities versus the wrong opportunities. I've had some really, wonderful chances to work with some national DSOs. I've had some really good chances to work on executive teams for some mid-tier DSOs. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I knew what I wanted, and I'm really thankful, and I'm really proud of the group that brought me on, and I'm thankful that I held out and waited for this to come around. So, it was just took a little bit of patience and a pandemic.
Yeah, right.
Is it too early to joke about that?
Yeah,
being right in the midst of it.
Gosh, I know.
Edit that out. I don't know.
Editor. Looking back, what do you think your biggest challenge has been through this time?
As I look at the challenges that I currently have, it's and I think every business owner that's scaling has the same basic challenges. It's always your people. Yeah. And coming into an organization, it's what that has 85 employees. It's part of it is identifying potentially the employees that are there that are the wrong fit, either currently or the wrong fit for where we're going. Yeah. Identifying the right employees and making sure you're building around them. And then I think as a leader, one of my biggest roles is to have an understanding of where everyone individually wants to be in their career, and then help, what those ambitions are and all of that kind of stuff for them personally, and then help build a business that will get them where they want to go. Yeah. and optimize that journey and incentivize that journey, and make sure that as an organization, we're allowing our team members to do what they want to do. Because, our biggest struggle and our biggest cost are retraining team members that have been well integrated into our group. So, as a business challenge, that's probably my biggest challenge. Otherwise, I think that, it's interesting, and I'm only going down this road because this is an expansion podcast on group practices, but the part of the challenge of building out a group practice is you have two, especially when you're running it, you kind of have two competing thought processes in your head. Part of me is reasonably cautious, and I want to build out the infrastructure. I want to build out the human resources department. I want to build out all of these things before we start bringing in all the people, just so that I have a really sound infrastructure that can manage and handle the practices that we bring on, or the practices that we build. The problem with that is that doing that takes a lot of money. So you run into either capital concerns, or you're writing checks out of the owner's pockets, which can be very, very costly. Yeah. So you're balancing, fiscal responsibility and figuring out how to slow play a lot of that with the other side of it, which is I'm also extremely aggressive. And I didn't get into this world or this market or sign on with a DSO because I just kind of want to hang on for the next 10 years. I want to have the best practices in the area, taking the best care of their patients. I want to have a DSO that is recognized as the best DSO in the Midwest or nationally. And I want every doctor and every hygienist and assistant and team member to want to work for us. Yeah. So, how do you balance all of that and build it and kind of make sure that you're not getting out over your skis, either financially or from an infrastructure standpoint? So that's a huge challenge.
Oh no, this is a great conversation, because this is like really in the middle of where I'm at right now. Is and what I've watched everybody do from an owner operator standpoint is you have this shutdown, and everybody, teams get furloughed, business gets paused, even like, so that was dentistry, even in marketing agency world, so many cuts. Yeah. I think almost every dental marketing company I know cut team members, cut salaries, furloughed some, did that, right? So it's this reaction to it. We didn't. We're very fortunate. We didn't have to let anybody go. Didn't have to reduce salaries. I was just like, let's see if we can make this work. We still had work coming in. I was like, if we cut people, I'm not sure how we get it done, right? Yeah, yeah. But then what I'm also watching now is this just over excess of demand. Yeah. And so now everybody's swinging back the other way. Everybody's hiring in dentistry for sure, like they don't have enough hygienists to just get these appointments done. So people are like, we're hiring new team members and this and that. I'm watching marketing agencies because the fact is this has been a growth time for dental marketing agencies. We've had probably our best new client year ever. And normally with this, those like watching what's coming in, I'd say we need to hire X, Y, Z. But I'm like, I'm trying not to be this pendulum that's swinging side to side, and knowing like right now, the question is, how aggressive should you be and how conservative should we be, knowing the fall could look different. I think in dentistry, we're seeing like schedules in October and November that are just a mess, right? Because there was no pre-appointed hygiene. In marketing world, I'm just like, you brought on all these team members to handle this volume, but what happens in November, December when that starts to slack? So
how do you feel about, and I'll give my answer in the back end of yours, but how do you feel about the learning curve of bringing in new team members that have never worked with you, never worked with your,
right, because we're not plug and play. Like I can't hire somebody and just plug them in and go, and now we're getting productive. So I have to actually like forecast that out 3 to 6 months for them. Do the dental learning curve, I'm bringing in people that don't know dentistry. How long do you think it takes somebody to get up to speed on the dental learking curve? To proficiency.
Oh, I think it's insane. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And I think that it's one of our biggest struggles. It's, I can hire 5 people tomorrow, which is great. It'll look like I have a full staff, but those 5 people they're not even useful. That's a terrible way to put it, but they're not even really useful to me.
You're not getting a return on your investment.
Right. For 60, 90, 120 days at minimum, minimum. And especially in a complex environment. So if, from your perspective, doing the type of work that you do and understanding, the businesses of dentistry and how they handle patient care and all of that kind of stuff, which is, you look at marketing and I think most marketing companies really don't have any idea how dentistry works. I think that's why it's been such a terrible industry. So I think having a dental marketing agency that actually truly understands front to back what that patient journey looks like is critically important. But to your point, bringing on a team member is almost impossible because they also have to understand that because it looks very different. Same thing in clinical care, same thing in the business care in the dental office.
No, I mean, one of my project managers said at one point, she's been with us about 5 years now. And she was like, I think it was somewhere in year 3 that I really felt like, okay, I understand this profession now and can talk about it. And I mean, I've been in it 17 years. I don't know where that was. I think it was after 3 years though, to be honest, before I was like, okay, I can talk intelligently and felt confident. So it is, but I think it's like that right now is that whole balance of everything's looking good. So do we hit the gas and be aggressive, or are we conservative about what could possibly be coming? So, I mean, how are you mentally?
Well, I mean, I think it's very much a balancing act. I think that even going back to the beginning when we talked about the World Health Organization report, you have things that crop up that all of a sudden they're putting out a report and the ADA is refuting it, and thankfully it doesn't seem like patients are listening because it's ridiculous. So I think there are going to be things that pop up that you have to pivot around consistently, but to some extent for and this is somewhat singular for us, but in general, in a general business setting, I think you have to understand how, actually stepping back a little bit, and you may have to edit this one, but stepping back a little bit, I think that one of the really, really good things about this pandemic, COVID-19 that's come, is that it really helped us see what our kind of disaster preparedness strategy was going to be. Like nobody had ever dealt with that. We had no idea what that was going to look like. So there are organizations that did well, there are organizations that did really poorly, and everything in between. So I think that at this point we're back up and running. We're operating at full tilt. There's no way to plan for every eventuality that could come from this. So I think that you're kind of being cautiously optimistic, onboarding people as you find the right people, training them up, and then with a full understanding that you don't have any control over, politically or from a health standpoint, how things go. Yeah.
No, that's good. I probably could be a little bit more aggressive. I think just as an operator and assertive with it. It's just I am kind of fascinated by this whole growing a business. I think not everybody. I think it's easier to grow a business in a bull market I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you're talking a full economic cycle, there's a bear market in there as well. And I think the fact is we haven't had one of those for 11 years or whatever. I was not a business owner in the last bear cycle. So I'm kind of like fascinated by like, how do you grow a business through a bear cycle? Because I think we could end up in that. I actually have a hard time not like figuring out how we couldn't.
I mean, I would agree, and we can get into economics and where we are as a market anytime, politically as well. I mean, there are just a whole bunch of different things that are pointing in the direction of some type of an extended bear market. I think that it is easier to build a startup business in a bull market for sure, because you have a vast array of riches that are being spread around. The businesses that kill it during a bear market are well-established businesses with capital. So I think that if you are well-established, you have and this goes back to the expansion idea. If you're a well-established business and you are not over-leveraged and you have access to capital, there are going to be huge buying opportunities. And that's where, I mean, you see most of the large, Fortune 100 companies, they didn't just grow organically. They waited for bear markets and they bought everything. They literally just bought everything. And I think that you'll see a lot of that. I think you're going to see, and we may have talked about this the last time as well, but I think you're going to see a lot of, in any kind of an extended bear market, a lot of those national elite DSOs are going to be picking off mid-tier players left and right, because quite frankly, they're so over leveraged at this point. I mean, there's so much leverage in the dental space, to the negative that you're going to have some fire sales. We're already seeing them. You're going to have some fire sales out there.
I think we're just starting to see them. Do you think, here's a question, who's most over leveraged in the DSO space?
Like
small groups? I mean, it's up to no, small groups, mid groups, large groups.
I mean, large groups are generally backed by different types of capital, so
and can raise more.
So their coffers are very different now. And if they're that large, most of them have a history and a track record of being run well. So they can usually weather the storm pretty well. A lot of your really small, I think the small and the mid-tier groups really could be a 50-50 split either way. You have mid-tier groups that are privately funded, bank funded, that or personal wealth or personal venture capital funded, that are over leveraged, but most of those institutions that fund them have some pretty finite financing methods in them that have some restrictions on them. So that being said, there are a lot of organizations out there that are over leveraged. I will say, I think what you are going to see is you're going to see business models that, even aside from leverage or aside from debt management, you're going to see business models that are good and business models that are bad, and that's going to be a huge separating factor. So we're going to find out, this DSO over here, they may not be over leveraged, but they just have a terrible business. And when everything goes to crap, that's it. The whole thing falls to the floor. And then you'll have another group of practices over there that they may be heavily leveraged, but they're well run and they can survive that storm because they're still profitable even in the midst of it. So it's a hard thing to say. In the DSO space, it's all over the board, but I think it's one of the most important conversations to have, especially, well, not on the high tier because they're not really privately funded, or they all have different funding, but it's one of the most important conversations to have at the front end with it, which is with whoever you're attaining capital from. What are we looking at? What do you need from us? How do we have a good relationship? What does that look like? And then every step of the way, making sure that you're checking in and ensuring that capital flow can be maintained, even in a bear market.
No, that's great. Because I think there's groups out there, 7 to 8 practices that we work with where they had 3 months of reserves in the bank, like responsible businesses should have, and did fine. And there's some that were really opportunistic and over leveraged themselves on 3-4 practices that are just not going to be able to sustain that. I mean, and we'll see that washing out because there are two sides of it. Either you go insolvent in the middle of all this, which the government did that's a different argument, but the government did a relatively good job of
avoiding some of that insolvency.
Yeah.
But you'll have a lot of groups that barely made it through this crisis that are going to get out on the other side, and as soon as they're profitable, they're going to sell because they realize that they don't have it to survive that again, and they want to get out while they have some value, or their funding source will force them to do it.
So I agree.
It's really interesting.
I'm probably going to wrap this up with this last question because we're at about 45 minutes here. So I think this has been a great episode. Just talking, like figuring out like what you're up to, like where you're at, all that. So I know we're actually going to do one, but I think we just split into two.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Easy.
So what are you most looking forward to? Just that whole professional, personal kind of filter in 2021. Like let's just like cancel 2020 for now. Like it's done. It's a wash. Like let's reset January 2021. The DSO gets formed. What are you most looking forward to next year?
I am really, really looking forward to Ohio State football. So I would say that is
fall 2021
near the top of the list. A year and a couple months away. Quite honestly, this is my dream opportunity. It's what I've been working towards really for most of my career, and I'm really, really excited about the team that we're building and the area of the market that we inhabit. So you've got a few months of fine-tuning and tweaking and adding pieces and parts that are critical. And then we're looking at 2021 as just a huge opportunity for growth into one or two additional markets. So our hope is that we'll see really, really consistent growth starting in January. And I'm just excited to be a part of building something that was already very, very successful before I got there, but also has my fingerprints on it because I've never had the chance to do that.
Yeah. So that'll be cool. It'll be fun, man.
Thanks.
I'm excited to watch that. I think clearly your level of intelligence, your skill set is like perfect for that type of role.
I appreciate that. You flatter.
Yeah, no, it's
You're
fun.
very kind. Thank you for talking about my muscles and my intelligence.
Yeah, that's going to be the title of the show. Swearingen's Muscles plus Intelligence.
Please tell me.
Episode 2 of Expansion.
Thank you very much.
All right. Oh, man. Guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Hopefully, it's been a good episode for you. Just so you're probably listening to this or consuming this on a podcast, we are on all the major channels, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. If you wanted to, we'd love it if you left us a review, either over on Facebook, our Facebook page, any of the podcast channels as well. That'd help us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It'd make us feel good.
Chime in on Facebook.
Anyway.
We're working towards kind of cleaning that up and getting some kind of a community going there. And as always, let us know topics that you're interested in. We have the next, 30 already planned out, so you're solidly 2.5 years away or so, but let us know.
Yeah, we're not narcissists, but if you left kind comments, we appreciate it.
And if you leave mean comments, we'll just delete them.
Yeah. That's actually the title of the show, is We're Not Narcissists. I feel like that's been said 3 times so far. So, all right, guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks
Check
so
us
much.
out on the next episode. We'll see you then.
Awesome. Have a good day.